There is an old temple in a long abandoned world that will never see the sun again. The skies above were blotted out, forever darkened, eclipsed by a machine titan the size of a city. The Titan's creators poured a world's resources into its construction, and when the work was done, they named their creation 5 Pebbles. When I took my first steps in this world a little over a month ago as I write this, it was among the pipes, vents and chimneys of an endless urban jungle. An immense industrial landscape that, to my mind, existed just to exist. A stage for the events of the game to play out on. Static, rusted and overgrown as the world was, and as hungry and tired as my little SLUG-CAT was, I dismissed whatever questions about the bigger picture visited me. The rain was coming. I needed food and shelter. Nothing else mattered. But as I became more familiar with navigating and surviving those hostile places, as the hunt for food became second nature and instinctive, I was slowly able to begin indulging in my wandering curiosities. Eventually, after I had reconciled the what, how, when, and where of life in the outskirts, I arrived at a question. A question whose answer would only be found at the end of a long and perilous journey through dark places and unfamiliar landscapes. Why? I'm new here. With only 15 hours of focused playtime in-game, my knowledge of Rainworld is still just barely scratching the surface. What follows are theories and impressions that have formed over the time I have spent immersed in this very special world. I have passed through the outskirts, the drainage system, the industrial complex, the shaded citadel, the shoreline, the memory crypts, the leg, the underhang, and the interior and upper extremities of 5 Pebbles megastructure. Along the way, I have met with a god, spoken with another, and at the very top of the world, I caught just a glimpse of the vast scope of this incredible story. Now I will share what I have seen and what I think it means within the context of the bigger picture. As always, keep an open mind, and remember, my journey is not over yet, and there are many secrets that remain undiscovered. If I am wrong, let me be wrong. If I'm right, let me be right. If you do feel compelled to leave a comment, please do so, but if it contains sensitive information, just begin your comment with a spoiler warning, so I know to come back to it after the conclusion of this amazing journey. This is a blind playthrough after all, and I truly feel that Rainworld was designed to be encountered this way. Everything you need to make your way in the world and grow, from defenseless prey to competent survivor, is already here. All you need to do is pay attention. If there is a word for whatever 5 Pebbles is, I do not know it yet. He is vast, incomprehensibly complex, and godlike in his power. Yet, for all that, he is vulnerable, sensitive, utterly immobile, and absolutely helpless. Before we explore that in more detail, let's take a step back and look at what we can see at face value. This is the leg. It is one of several that hold 5 Pebbles aloft. It's unclear exactly how tall these structures are, but my own romantic love of size and scale, combined with the many grueling attempts it took to climb this Goliath pillar of steel and cable from its roots in the memory crypts, have led me to the conclusion that 5 Pebbles is many kilometers in height. I am probably wrong. If a metric exists that gives an exact figure, I have either missed it or have not yet encountered it. The beauty of this game's storytelling is that it leaves many details up to the imagination of the one experiencing it, and, as for me, I like my world building larger than life. Within the leg of 5 Pebbles, we are no longer vulnerable, it seems, to the crushing pressure of the rain that comes at the end of each cycle. Instead, violent, green-tinted electrical currents surge through the structure, vaporizing anything caught inside. Is this an unintended malfunction caused by the rainwater making contact with damaged circuitry? Or is this machine operating as intended, releasing the excess energy that built up during the cycle into the ground, where it can dissipate without causing damage to 5 Pebbles' structure? Whatever the reason, trading crushing rain for furious lightning only emphasizes the already omnipresent tenet of Rainworld: nowhere is safe. It is also here, along the leg, that we encounter these blind, predatory, tentacled entities for the first time. Probing the landscape with extended tendrils, its victims are transported to its body, which is more like a cluster of tumorous cells nested at its core and are, for lack of a better word, absorbed. I do not know their true name, although I have seen some refer to them affectionately as Daddy Longlegs. What a horrifyingly innocuous name for such a malevolent and wretched thing. Places we previously thought safe are revealed with alarming nonchalance to be just another death trap. The Daddy Longlegs, despite their size, move through the vents the same as we do. Anywhere we can go, they can follow. Functionally blind, the Daddy Longlegs hunt using vibrations in the environment. You could call it hearing if you wanted, but hearing is a sense that belongs to the world of the living, and I cannot faithfully acknowledge these unnatural entities as living things. It does not distinguish between its prey, it does not discriminate, it does not hunt for survival, it does not rest. It is nothing more than an appetite. It consumes, it destroys, it hungers, it does not belong here. Our only discourse is to remain silent and pray that before we are discovered by the endlessly probing tentacles, some other poor soul distracts the Daddy Longlegs long enough for us to escape while it is ensnared and consumed. Within 5 Pebbles exists an environment utterly unfamiliar to the outside world. Rust and concrete are replaced with sterile metal panels, flickering LED arrays and exposed electronic circuitry. Gravity is mostly absent, and navigating the yawning cavities of each room is a careful game of lining up and launching ourselves at the nearest handhold to grab onto. Miscalculating the shot and missing the mark means bouncing off a wall and floating helplessly into empty space. I noticed after a few minutes within these sterile chambers that the circuitry, the lighting, even the very shape of the interior structure of 5 Pebbles is a near identical match to that of Looks to the Moon. I believe that whatever she is, 5 Pebbles is too. Taking a look at the organisms that inhabit 5 Pebbles' interior, I initially wondered if this was a totally separate ecosystem that had evolved perfectly adapted to the sterile, zero-gravity environment, but then I remembered the host of biomechanical organisms I had already encountered on my journey so far. Could it be that the architects of 5 Pebbles were the very same minds that brought the masked birds, the snapping raptors, and the metal-mouthed leviathan into the world? Are we seeing the same marriage of flesh and machine right here, inside 5 Pebbles, as part of the structure itself? A living motherboard. Tentacles sparkling with energy, transferring power and information into the cilia lining the walls and the small glowing sprites that glide like swimming fish through the air. This is not just another ecosystem. This is by design. A perfect imitation of the natural world, but with a focused Returning briefly to these glowing fish-like sprites, I immediately recognized them as the very same organisms that keep Looks to the Moon company many miles below in the shoreline. Taking a step further back, it staggered me how much like an ocean the interior of Five Pebbles really is. The cilia on the walls swaying like seagrass as if rocked by some current, the tentacles that guide them gently twisting and flexing like the limbs of a cephalopod. Huge schools of glowing sprites spinning and writhing in synchronized unity. Even the fractal glyphs projected on the walls felt like a distant reflection of sunlight filtered through rippling water. I felt a kind of irony, that an ocean rests within Five Pebbles, while Looks to the Moon rests in an ocean. The biomechanical coral reef is not the only presence within Five Pebbles, however, and it takes only a few turns and tunnels before we stumble into an unfortunate development. It is within these rotting spaces that we see an advanced infestation of the same rot that we encountered on the leg and in the underhang. Only this time, instead of predator cysts, the very walls themselves are ripe with budding colonies of the same rotten tumours. Huge threads of it are draped from wall to wall, lined with globules of bulbous organic matter, appearing not dissimilar to a spiderweb after rain holding on to beads of water. Within this wing of Five Pebbles' interior, miscalculating a jump or drifting too far off course means certain death. Landing in one of the rot clusters that are festering along the walls will almost certainly result in a brief struggle and inevitable consumption and digestion. It was here, in this unfortunate development, that I noticed the rot is damaging Five Pebbles in more ways than surface-level erosion. The massive glowing cores that create the artificial zero gravity, half digested by the spreading rot, malfunction constantly. The gravity in these rooms is in a constant state of flux. Whatever this cancerous infestation is, wherever it came from, it has taken root here within Five Pebbles, and it is eating them from the inside out. If left unchecked, it will consume them entirely. Five Pebbles is dying. Venturing deeper into the heart of Five Pebbles, passing through the recursive transform arrays and memory conflux, the noise and intensity of the machinery surrounding us increases exponentially, reaching a climax within the General Systems bus, where the concentration of biomechanical servitors, drones, and other purposed organisms is extraordinary. The atmosphere among these chambers, despite all being part of the same vast machine organism, are distinct, unique, and enchanting. The recursive transform arrays are narrow, dimly lit caverns illuminated by these menacing blue electrodes that buzz loudly in the dark. It takes only a glimpse to understand that making physical contact with one of these would be lethal. Encountering even a fraction of the power that surges through the veins of Five Pebbles is enough to extinguish life in an instant. The memory conflux is a collection of sterile grey chambers, filled with brittle red lattice that shatters easily, but knits itself back together with the help of the nearby tendrils and these small, white, spider-like organisms that remind me of sea spiders. And a SLUG-CAT's best efforts could not hope to do any meaningful, lasting damage to even the most fragile parts of this machine. In the background of the General Systems bus, amidst the chaos of movement, familiar glyphs flicker across the dark walls, their meaning unknown to us. Could this be computing code? Or is this the language of the old civilization? Sharp lines intersect the glyphs, isolating and grouping them in ever-shifting arrangements. Something is moving them. Something big. Something intelligent. There is a god at the heart of this machine, one who shares their DNA with looks to the moon, and sooner or later we will encounter them as we did her. As easy as it is to be taken in by the endless and hypnotic activity within the general system's bus, there is a second chaos that simmers quietly beneath the surface. Approaching the heart of Five Pebbles, I noticed a noise, faint at first, but growing in volume and intensity the deeper I went. The noise is dissonant. Growling engine, an angry titan, the power of a world's resources brought to bear and straining at full capacity. To do what? To solve some problem, to rectify some error, to answer some question. Then, out of the discord and chaos, amidst the noise of a billion processes, we hear it. Five Pebbles is singing. If you pay close attention, you will recognize the melody. Though warped and disfigured by the distortion and bottomless, endless burden of whatever task their systems are struggling beneath, Five Pebbles carries the same melody as his neighbour and kin looks to the moon, who sits quietly alone in the ruins of her structure many miles below. Though separated by space, time, and circumstance, they are two of a kind. Two lonely gods in a dying world. I suppose that makes them family. At last, then, we reach the very heart of the machine. When we stumble into Five Pebbles' central chamber, it is without fanfare or ceremony. He does not even notice our presence, so preoccupied is he with the task at hand, suspended on the end of the very same metal limb that lies motionless and inert in Looks to the Moon's chamber. The very same cables that hang limp from the head of Looks to the Moon connect Five Pebbles to the rest of his titanic structure. These small bodies are the interface point of the city of wires, cables, pipes, tunnels and generators in which they are cocooned. This is the tip of the pen, the edge of the knife, the apex into which every shred of information and power and data flows, interacting with and studying what appear to be the same shiny objects that we have seen so many times on our journey so far. It is only when we enter Five Pebbles' chamber properly that everything stops. The full attention of this mountain-sized machine god is currently focused entirely on us. He moves closer, examining us. He speaks, but as with Looks to the Moon, we perceive nothing but noise. He tries again, his body language clearly indicating that he is trying to express something to us, but to no avail. Then, finally, he does something that Looks to the Moon could not. He begins consulting his archives for information. He inputs what could be a description of our SLUG-CAT to cross-reference with existing data within his memory conflux. Five Pebbles is researching us. He finds a match. He pulls up what appears to be a blueprint or a map of the local area, and finally, for the first time, we are shown the true shape of the structure we have spent so many cycles climbing. A vast bulk, held up by several titanic support pillars or legs, one of which we recently climbed ourselves, Its exterior is populated by circular structures protruding from all sides, and on the roof there appear to be buildings. There isn't enough time to drink it all in before the image before us shifts again, this time to a diagram of us. Five Pebbles had no difficulty in identifying our species and, specifically, where in this body our brain is located. Harnessing his will over gravity itself, Five Pebbles lifts us into the center of his chamber, the machinery around us heaving and groaning with astonishing power until we drop to the ground, stunned. A small, floating pixel suspended above our head. We don't know it yet, but Five Pebbles has just performed a miracle. Then, he speaks.
Is this reaching you? A little animal on the floor of my chamber. I think I know what you are looking for. You are stuck in a cycle, a repeating pattern. You want a way out. Know that this does not make you special. Every living thing shares that same frustration, from the microbes in the processing strata to me, who am, if you excuse me, godlike in comparison. The good news first. In a way, I am what you are looking for. Me and my kin have as our purpose to solve that very oscillating claustrophobia in the chests of you and countless others. A strange charity. You, the unknowing recipient. I, the reluctant gift. The noble benefactors. Gone. The bad news is that no definitive solution has been found. At every moment, the equipment erodes to a new state of decay. I can't help you, collectively or individually. I can't even help myself. For you, though, there is another way. The old path. Go west, past the farm arrays, and then down into the earth where the land fishes, as deep as you can reach, where the ancients built their temples and danced their silly rituals. The mark I gave you will let you through. Not that it will solve anyone's problem, but yours.
This overwhelmed me. It is easy to overlook what has just happened in light of all the information that Five Pebbles has just imparted on us. But the fact we are even able to comprehend what he has said is nothing short of miraculous. A wild animal who was only a few cycles ago at home with the rest of its colony, far away in the wilderness, living out its life of hunting and foraging, now blessed with the power to understand speech. The creators are gone. Five Pebbles has just confirmed as much. Although to where, we still do not know. Five Pebbles is rotting. His days are numbered, and there is nothing he can do to stop it. Whether or not he intends to help us reunite with our family, I do not know. It seems in his feverish determination, he is only able to comprehend the future within the context of his assigned task. A task that, frankly, horrifies me. We are dismissed from Five Pebbles' chamber and into the access shaft above, still suspended in the flows of zero gravity. As we make our way further out of his structure, we find a mural depicting two humanoids. One is on their back, their arm held up in self-defense. The other stood over them, plunging a spear into the abdomen of the first. Stamped in the very center of this mural is a familiar symbol. The lowest level. The connection between the symbol and the scene behind it only became clear a little later. In the next mural, 2 more humanoids are engaged in what looks like sexual intercourse, and they are accompanied by the symbol associated with the second level. After this, we find yet 2 more humanoids in a third mural. They are kneeling together. Between them, on the floor, sits what looks like a document, a contract or treaty of some kind. Hanging at head level is a lantern with the symbol representing the third level carved into it. The fourth mural depicts a seated humanoid, gorging itself on the cooked remains of a small animal, flanked on both sides by garlands of blue fruit. This is when the dots connected for me, but I'll continue. The fifth and final mural depicts a lone figure, knelt on the ground with 2 large shields held up on either side. Upon the face of the kneeling figure, although difficult to see at first, is the symbol representing the 5th and highest level. Curiously, the face of the figure and of all other figures have been either scratched off or painted over. Petty vandalism? Or something more significant? The next time I hibernated, I discovered something surprising. The symbols representing my levels have changed. The familiar 5 glyphs that I had grown accustomed to have been replaced now with different symbols. I do not know what this transformation represents, but I'm sure time will tell. Perhaps with our newly gifted powers of higher comprehension, the way we perceive these symbols has evolved. The dream that greets us in our sleep is a fearful vision of 5 pebbles wreathed in power, looming large over the SLUG-CAT. On all sides float the same shiny objects as we saw in his chamber, in grey, black and orange. My mind is lingering on these small things. They are more than simple trinkets for bargaining with locals, I believe. Until now, we have journeyed through the remnants of an industrial landscape likely built to support the ongoing maintenance and operations of 5 Pebbles and, before her ruin, looks to the moon. I commented on this in my previous speculative lore breakdown, when no signs of higher intelligent life had yet been encountered. We've met looks to the moon and 5 Pebbles, whose creators were incredibly advanced in their technology and intellect, but we have never met the architects themselves, nor have we seen anything resembling livable, residential infrastructure. No houses, no settlements, nothing even remotely habitable. It is within industrial wastelands and apocryphal ruins that we have eked out our existence from the very outset of this journey. It is not until we emerge onto the roof of 5 Pebbles' structure that we are finally shown, in full scale and splendour, a city of the old world. Towering apartment blocks, dark, silent, empty. No life exists here. What was likely once a bustling centre of culture and civilization is now a hollow shell, ravaged by the elements, crumbling in quiet solitude. This is where they lived. 5 Pebbles is more than just a processor put to work. He bore on his back the lives of his creators, their families, entire communities. How many did 5 Pebbles carry? How many stories? How many joyous events and solemn ceremonies? How many heartbreaks and romances? Now silent. Nothing is left. The only evidence of those who once lived here are the decaying husks of their residential blocks. There is a vent at the far end of the roof of 5 Pebbles' structure that leads us down into a small antechamber from which we can exit onto the top of one of the vast walls that holds his gargantuan form together. Leading up to this moment, my mind had been mulling over the cacophony of everything that had been shown and told to me on my journey through this beautiful, chaotic, living, breathing world. All the death, all the life, all the machinery and construction and mythology, and monsters and technology and ruins and horror and allies and history. It was overwhelming and astonishing just how much this little corner of the world contained, how much life had found root in and around 5 Pebbles and looks to the moon. 2 giants left behind in a dying world, each a world unto itself. And then, in the distance, across the yawning expanse and along the horizon, I saw them. Others, as far as the eye could see, their titanic bodies like vast islands of metal in an ocean of clouds. The eerily silent green flashes of their electrical discharge, silhouetting their massive structures below the darkening clouds. When I first witnessed this sight, I became emotional. To think that this behemoth of life and death, of growth and decay, of horror and peace and chaos and harmony, was just one among dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands. How many resources? How much time? How many lives were spent to build just one of these world engines? And yet, the planet could be covered in them. Each bearing a city on its back, each a host to its own ecosystems and lives and communities, each harnessing godlike power beyond imagination, each a world unto itself, all with the same single purpose: death, rebirth, death again, rebirth again. In the beginning, it's a mechanic that drives the gameplay loop forwards and allows the fun to continue. But there have been clues from our very first death that, now acknowledged and given context by 5 Pebbles himself, point to a driving force that set in motion events that built this world and shattered it again long before we even arrived. We are stuck in a cycle. Death is not the end. When one life is extinguished, we are diminished and given another. The manner of death is unimportant, nor is the level we are at when it happens. As certain as the rain comes or the sun rises, death is followed by rebirth. We are limited in our perception, only able to experience this world through one set of eyes and ears at a time. So, naturally, we assume this cycle only applies to us, the player. But when 5 Pebbles speaks to us about the frustration that is shared by every living thing, the already overwhelming scope of this story is revealed, and the tragedy of this world unravels. The former inhabitants of this world, now vacant, sought to break free of the torturous, endless cycle of death and rebirth in which they were trapped. To this end, the ancients built temples and danced rituals to elevate their spirits through faith and doctrine, while their descendants developed and constructed great thinking machines, world engines built with a single purpose: set us free. If hearing about the desire to break free from suffering and endless reincarnation feels familiar, you are not alone. Followers of both Hinduism and Buddhism likewise concern themselves with either a release from the eternal cycle of death and reincarnation, or liberation from suffering itself. Both religions possess their own distinct and significant iconography, which strike resonant parallels with the ways of the old civilization. Returning to the murals within Five Pebbles, let's connect the symbols found in each with the actions or ideas they are attached to. At the bottom of the ladder, the basest of all behaviours, is violence. Next comes lust. The third level is ambiguous. The figures depicted appear to be forming a bond or friendship. Maybe they are striking some kind of deal. I struggle to imagine how this could be seen as undesirable or negative, unless it represents, however loosely, the idea of attachment, which in both Hinduism and Buddhism can be detrimental to one's practice. The fourth mural depicts gluttony, or perhaps excess. And the final pillar, representing the highest level of the ladder, depicts a comparatively virtuous figure, free from base desires and urges, strong and stalwart, disciplined and devout. Where the religious doctrines of the real world and the beliefs of the old civilizations of Rainworld differ, however, is how such ends are pursued. While Buddhism and Hinduism both encourage a balanced existence free from excessive attachment and steered by good morals and frequent meditative practice, the creators of Five Pebbles, Looks to the Moon, and countless others like them, essentially attempted to brute force ascension by building computers to do the heavy lifting for them. Needless to say, it did not end well, and where they are now, I do not yet know. But judging by the way Five Pebbles speaks about his task, he is still searching for a solution. His creators are gone, but he is still searching because nobody ever told him to stop. The existential horror of this one simple fact makes my blood run cold. Five Pebbles and his kind will continue to struggle into perpetuity to answer a question that cannot be answered, for masters who are no longer around to hear it. They have been left behind, their work unfinished, the great question unanswered. And if what Five Pebbles says is true, and these godlike entities are no exception to the repeating cycles that plague all life, not even death will set him free. He will toil and struggle until his rotten circuitry either burns out or is consumed, and the metal bones of his superstructure buckle and fail. He will die painfully. Then he will be reborn, and his torture will begin again. This is his lot for all eternity. There will be no release, no relief, no salvation. It is a horror that human minds simply cannot process logically. It is Sisyphus pushing his boulder up a mountain. Only the gods that put him to this task are no longer watching. They may not even be alive anymore, and any hope of an order to cease is long gone.
I cannot help you.
Whether the rot is a malady that plagues all of the great thinking machines or just Five Pebbles is unknown, but time is cruel, and even without the catalyst of the rot to expedite their decay, each and every one of these metal titans will fall before any answer is found, only for their maddening existence to be renewed again, and again, and again. When every last star has been extinguished, when even the final lingering black holes have radiated away into oblivion, and the universe is dark and silent, the gulf of eternity will stretch out before them, the surface of that bottomless ocean having not even been disturbed by the billion years of pain already endured.
I cannot help you.
Whether or not 5 Pebbles and Looks to the Moon can communicate with each other, I do not know. But my impression is that there has been no talking between them for a long, long time. The panic and desperation in Pebbles' rumbling and his frantic, erratic movements tell the story of an immortal being faced with the sobering reality of his painful, agonizing death and his inevitable rebirth. An experience that he understands all too well, he will be forced to endure for the rest of time. This is probably not even the first time this has happened. He may have lived this horrifying existence countless times already, all the power in the world at his fingertips. But 5 Pebbles is helpless. As for Looks to the Moon, time is all she has left. Her structure lies silent, her systems in ruin. While once she was the beating heart of a machine organism within which entire ecosystems thrived, she is now alone, kept company by 5 small glowing sprites. The stillness and peace that hang over her chamber tell the story of a solitude that has lasted eons and will last for many, many more. Having climbed into heaven, we met with a god who sent us on our way with a gift. Our journey has peaked, and what follows next is a descent that will take us down, down into the earth, into darkness. I do not know what awaits us there, but for now, it is the only way forward. Before beginning the long and perilous climb down the wall of 5 Pebbles, one final visit onto the roof, into the last remaining unexplored vent. Reality shifts and warps. A solemn hymn drifts through the air, and we find ourselves face to face with an angel who offers us hope.
We can feel your presence, little creature. Your attunement has become much closer to ours. The mark you received is an unimaginable gift. The struggle, the cycles, it can all fade like a morning mist beneath the glory of the sun. We found a way.
Thank you for watching.